All right, we're going to go ahead and get started this morning with our project management meeting. We'll do a quick introduction of our team here at the table. I'm Jenny Nice, as the administrator. We've got Tyler, our building official, Justin, our public works director, Matt Robertson, our engineer, got Ryan Barker from Monster Fire, Brady Hansen from Bonavista, Vista, and Green from Jones, helping contract with our planning. So we've got first on our agenda the Walmart site plan amendment. Geoff, I see you online. Are you heading the discussion for your team this morning?
I sure am.
Oh, let me turn up our volume. It'll be on that owl. And that's what. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
No.
Who's it? Patience.
Someone.
Yeah.
Check your speakers. They might be too loud. Let's give it a go again.
All right. Can you hear me this time?
Yeah.
All right, very good. Yes, as she was saying, I'm Geoff Solomonson. I'm Development Services Coordinator with Galloway, and I'll be leading the portion on the Walmart.
So let me share a screen and pull up your site plan. You tell me where you'd like to start.
That's good right there. So I'll go ahead and I'll give you just kind of an overview of what this project is right now. So we are proposing to build a 4,118 square foot addition onto the southwest corner of the existing Walmart Supercenter building. What this addition will be for is an expansion onto the online pickup ordering service that has really taken off with Walmarts across the country here. So essentially what this new building will do is it is an area to assemble and store customer pickup orders where they can then be brought out to the customers' cars as shown in the second image there with the darkened stalls. So no additional retail space being added onto the building. Like I said, this is just kind of an expansion onto what is already existing in terms of services there. This will just be more of a centralized area to store that. The only other thing really with this project that we're looking at doing there is restriping the parking stalls there to the west. Currently there's I think there's 12 of them up there that will be, and we're taking, that are 12 pickup stalls right now, and then the regular standard stalls, and we'll be converting them over to larger pickup stalls. And then to the south of the proposed expansion, we would be doing the same there. In total, this would be bring the number of online pickup stalls from 25 up to 36 stalls. Overall, with the parking site, it would bring it from 1,046 stalls down to 1,020. But like I said, we'd have an increase in the pickup stalls. This project will not be affecting any utilities. It is close to a grease trap and storm, and there's a water line on the other side, but we will not be affecting any of the utilities, like I said, that are nearby. So with that kind of is the overview of the project. If you have any questions.
Let me so the parking lot or those parking stalls on the west side, that's just using the existing stalls that are there. You're not expanding the parking lot at all, are you?
Correct. No, we would just be restriping those stalls, the existing stalls.
Okay. I don't even have much to say then.
Seems like we run into this every time there's an expansion there with the issue on 700 North.
I know, I thought about that, but I just
From a planning perspective, adding that much It's, I don't think it's necessarily, sorry, we're kind of having a little internal discussion here. From a planning perspective, I don't think that there are any issues with that expansion. Keeping, now these will be pickup stalls, not regular parking stalls, correct? People won't be parking in these during the shopping. People won't be parking in them, just pickup people.
Correct. They will be striped and marked with signage to say that they are pickup stalls.
Essentially, and your addition is essentially just enclosing some kind of concrete area anyway right now, right?
Correct. It will take some of the parking that's right next to the building there, across the aisle from what will be the new parking stalls. So some of those parking stalls will be going away, and then mostly just that concrete open area will be converted to a building expansion.
Just get one of these up in Perry. It's not, you've seen it, yeah. But it's not, it really is just an open warehouse with a bunch of racks, and they did the same thing, restripe.
Not really any issue from it.
No, I didn't see a big issue in Perry, but you know, there's some issues that need to be addressed as far as improvements that right out the Russell's now. It's not that big of an impact.
I don't think the trailers on the other side change to figure those improvements.
Yeah, so I think honestly, we don't have too many concerns on the engineering or planning side. It sounds like, you'll of course have to submit your building permits.
They actually already
I
have.
already have, okay. So it just goes through a site plan amendment.
We would go through planning commission for a site plan amendment. Brandon, did you have other concerns? No.
No, I just know, when we first were talking, there was a car wash that was looking to come in. I don't know how this plays in.
Yeah,
That property
yeah.
at the site, you know, the car wash.
It
No.
doesn't really, I was thinking, when I first looked at the plans, I wasn't sure if like that was new parking extending to the west, but it's just that those current existing stalls. I don't see it having any impact on that at all.
You don't anticipate any traffic issues here with that space outside of what is already there?
Right. Where is it on here?
Yeah, it's, so those are the stalls and the expansions just
Right
a
there.
bit right there.
So no utilities are gonna be affected. Do you see an issue, Ryan, with them fire issues?
Can you pull up the satellite that we just pulled in?
And then. So here in the.
Point.
So, sorry.
Right here, yeah. Where their semis enter. So they're keeping that same.
So the drive lane here is gonna remain the same width?
Correct.
I think
Correct,
those additions on those stalls 1 through 18 is they're making them wider so they can open their doors and load all
This
those groceries. They aren't extending out into the drive.
Yeah,
And then they just lose that parking close to the building for
The one
addition.
that's here would be
Right,
enclosed as part of the addition.
right.
And you still have an appropriate number of parking stalls. I'm assuming they have plenty of parking.
They ever use all those stalls and put people in Walmart, and then we got an occupant load issue.
Used to happen on Black Friday, but I'm not sure. I'm sure it's
Stays home and does it on me.
right. All right, well, I think you've submitted what we need for site plan amendment for our planning commission. So we can move you forward, unless this body has any other comments for the amendment. We can move you forward to our November planning commission meeting, which will be November 8th. at 7 PM.
Okay.
And assuming that everything moves through that clearly, then you'd be able, Tyler can begin your review on your building permit. And then after that approval is taken place, then you can move forward with the building permit.
Perfect. That sounds good.
Okay. Any other comments from the team? Okay, thanks, Jeff. We will forward this on to planning commission for November.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
What's that?
All right, let's move on to item 2. We have Reyna's Auto. We have representation from Reyna's Auto here. Or Calvin?
I was asked to be here.
Yes, please, come on up. So let's start. We have received an application for Reyna's Auto to have a location out of this section of your site. Is that correct? This is your property? Is that correct? This is Washington Boulevard,
Yes,
and they wanted to have an auto sales business out of this.
correct.
So there are a couple of questions the city reached out to Reyna's about meeting. And I don't know if you are brought up to speed on that with some of the requirements that the city was going to require for them to have an additional business here.
Rena's approached me with a letter that the city gave them.
Okay,
And in that, they said they were handling all the issues except for the site plan, which would include the storm drains and I forget what else. But this existing property in 2008, when it was constructed by trying to think of the name now, the construction company. They went to Gardner Engineering in 2008 and had them do the building site plans for the property, and they were turned into Kent Jones.
I think the question is what, so. Cause I think on what they sent them, Brandon, correct me if I'm wrong, what changes were they making? Are they making any changes to the site? Cause I think what they, from what that original site plan was, there's additional paving.
So what's happened since then is,
so the original site plan showed this space here as a retention area.
it was draining.
Thank you.
Based on the site plan that was submitted to the city. So I don't know.
So we have, this is the original approval that we received for that site. Now.
So it looks like this was some kind of, all of the drainage is occurring and heading that way, and that has since been taken and filled in or covered over. So now we're trying to figure out how to reestablish what was possibly a retention area.
Retention basin.
Yeah.
Back in 1994, the original parking lot to the north of that, which is 6,600 square feet, that drained into a storm drain pipe that's right. If you bring that arrow down over to your west, it's right there. There is a grate and collecting basin right there. And that storm drain pipe goes over and comes down the right of way. Approximately to this area here, it tees off. This is a retention basin here. And then it comes on down and empties into the city's retention basin. When this building lot back here got built, that storm drain ditch got filled in by
Green.
the Green or whoever built this lot here. This ditch used to run all the way back here. When this lot got built, they filled that ditch into here.
They piped it, right?
No, they did not pipe it.
I know on the drawings for that, it says that on the swell is to remain until those pads get developed, and at such time, the pipe is to be installed in the swell to get the water to the basin. Based on the research that I've done. So, and that's one thing I noticed is, that swell hasn't been filled in. I don't know the amount of water that gets discharged out into there, so, I guess the city hasn't had any complaints.
Nothing from our property gets back to here. Ours all goes right there where it says 1115 in that retention basin.
Does it just stay in there?
It's, no, it don't stay there very long. It sinks into the ground.
Does it?
And that was done in 1994. The only thing that was done last year for Reyna's was we took out the grass and put in the additional asphalt parking for them
Out in the front?
on the front, yes. But all the storm drain pipes are still in the ground. The collection basin is there. There's also a collection basin right up next to the building too.
So are they proposing to do any new paving or anything in the back? Behind the building?
No, there's no new paving behind the buildings, no.
So what happens when we get a new application at the city? It triggers a review of the whole property to come into compliance with the city code. So that's why we're having this kind of a discussion, because when something new is coming in, it has to be brought up to speed with what the city's code are. So that's another concern that we had in reviewing the property, that there is likely some code compliance issues with the parking of vehicles on soft surfaces, on grass areas, where it infiltrates the oils and with the terminology, right, stormwater pollution things. So that was a concern as we reviewed the application, that there's existing issue with the property, and bringing in additional cars and things like that might attribute more to the condition of the property. So I'm not sure if we have our code inspector here, so he can work to bring it into compliance to address any outstanding code issues that might be there and draw them to the attention. You can work through requirements. We're not sure what these are and what they're being stored for, if they're being used as a storage area. We just didn't know what's going on there on the property, so we were just kind of reaching out to get an idea of what's taking place.
Okay, on the north side, the vehicles that are over on the north side are cars that are there to be repaired or restored. The vehicles that are on the west end here, them are all family trailers, camping trailers that they store there during the fall. It changes. In the summertime, you'll see no vehicles there, no camping trailers there. They're only there during the winter months, from September through May. And that area also has been improved, and there's been gravel put into the back area here up to about where the retention basin is all now.
This is all gravel.
All gravel brought in by Marriott Construction, yes.
So these are the cars that are being restored, did you say?
Yeah, either repaired or restored. They're on the north side of the property.
So we did identify a business license for the oil changes, but I don't know that we identified an auto. We did some research on the conditions. I know we found some record of it.
Just the business license wasn't really
Or,
but it doesn't.
okay, So it looks like we may need our inspector to go out on site and just do a review of the property to see if there are any outstanding code issues there.
Okay.
To make sure that everything is in compliance.
Also, the back property is fenced off. It's, this Reyna's will not have access to that or use of that.
Right, and we understood that from the drawing that they submitted. The other question that we is whether this is a recognized approved UDOT access.
Yes,
We
it
know
is.
that there is a right of way, but when there is a change in the use of the property from UDOT, that triggers a new review from them. So the city would require an approval letter from UDOT saying that Reyna's Auto is okay to use this southern access point for their business. We did see a recorded right of way, so there wasn't a question of whether it exists. The question was if UDOT's okay with you using this access for an auto sales business.
I know in 2008, the UDOT was approached and this access was also granted for back business of Green Touch. Right there, and Northview Fire also required that to be.
Separate access.
And that's great, but because this is a new application for a new business, we have to have a new letter from UDOT that states that they are recognizing this as an approved access point for the property.
Reyna's had to do the same thing with their site here on the highway. They had to go to UDOT when they changed the use of their site over here on 89. And UDOT has some requirements where they had to remove an access. Hopefully,
Is that required for all new businesses in Harrisville?
Anything that fronts a UDOT road, they control the access. The city doesn't have much to say in that, if at anything at all.
So the property to the north of me, it's gonna have to do the same thing again.
If it's the same business and the same amount of traffic is there, if it's the same like business use, so if they're doing auto sales, it doesn't trigger it.
Mhm.
But there isn't currently auto sales on this property, the 1115.
Right.
So we have to ask UDOT, are you okay with this new business bringing additional traffic to this access?
Okay.
If that were to change to, insurance company or something.
Sure.
different,
Any other
They would
use.
have to go through that same process.
If a barber shop opened up or anything, that would trigger a review by UDOT. So they have two things that trigger a review. It's either an increase of traffic for an existing business that triggers a review from them, or if there's a change in the use of the property, triggers a review from UDOT. And our code requires us to have all appropriate service letters or access letters to be up to speed before we issue new business licenses or make any site plan changes.
and if there's back on the stormwater issue, if there's no additional hard surfacing, I guess we could double check that it's working the way you said,
Here.
with it draining back to the base back there. I think I'm okay with it the way it is. You guys don't know of any problems.
And essentially, if they're not adding more from, that's not being surface, so I don't even have any issues as of yet.
You're gonna change when he goes in there and addresses parking on soft surface?
Well, it's still, he can park on gravel and that's a permanent surface. I mean, if that thing goes in there and asphalts the whole thing, that changes a lot because then that triggers.
There may be an issue with storing outside storage. But that, like I said, we'll have Jake go over doing just an inspection. You can meet him there. He's here in this meeting and he can meet with you and he can review the code to see if there's So outdoor storage or recreational vehicles, equipment, or finished products that are not associated as the main use of the lot, meaning if you're not selling those or they're not being utilized for your business, it is not allowed to park them. Under our. So that would be a code violation that would need to be addressed before we could move the application forward. But we'll have, so there's two issues that maybe we can.
I don't understand the trailer storage there. It seems that's been allowed since 94. That I was told I could do that back in 94, that compound, as long as it was related to the business of Protec. There's revenue for Protec that was allowed.
The recreational vehicles are used for the Protec, are they being fixed for
No, they're not being
Protec?
fixed, but Protec, they pay Protec to stay there.
They rent the space essentially as a storage lot.
And they've done it since 94.
Right, and that maybe was approved in 94, but because there's a new application for a new business, we kind of revisit what initiated this conversation. There's a new business asking for permission to do there. You have to come up to our current code standards to do a new business.
So we'd have to apply for a permit to store the trailers there.
So it's not permitted, even if you apply for a permit for that, it's not a permit, it's not something the city can allow you to do that.
That's the key right there, outdoor storage.
This right here would prevent you from being able to store those there.
If we change the business license.
If you want Reyna's auto, yes.
Okay.
This first column is commercial, the other one's manufacturing, right? So it's conditional, it's a condition in manufacturing, it's not.
There's the CP2, which is what you're.
Correct.
The first column. But we can have him go through it further. Like I said, we have those two issues. We have the code issues that we want to make sure that everything's in compliance before we move the application forward. And then the UDOT access permit for that south access, we need a letter from them. Sounds like we can work through the stormwater to make sure that nothing is out of compliance there.
I think we'll have to go back to Green or whoever developed that and make sure that that swell is back.
Yeah, right, because that doesn't like me, it's not a problem. Right,
It's starting in this.
exactly, because if that basin ever did fill up enough and go out that to the west, that swell's supposed to be there to get it to the city basin. But if they filled that in, then that could potentially go into that backyard or. But that's not your problem, that's.
Yeah, and in the city back in 2019, I think it was, when Campbell bought the property from the south of me. They met with the city public works director, or somebody else, and with Dave Green. And Dave Green said there'd be no problem with them piping in.
Right, I remember that conversation.
In the retention basin up where they'd filled in for that.
Yeah.
And Dave Green also bought the neutral one there.
That's right.
And the piping is there, just they've never put it in.
But they should have at least kept that swell there.
And or they should, buildings should put the pipe in the ground.
Yes. I thought they.
It's all still laying there.
Well, Dave sold it.
The house?
No, the whole business is sold.
Oh.
Like Green Touch thing or that whole lot?
Okay,
I think, I'm trying to remember if he sell it or is he just leasing it to he sold it, the Green Touch. Buildings with it. I think he still owns it.
We'll get with Dave.
That's what it's always been.
Yeah. There's his address. So,
So we'll have, Jake reach out to you if that's okay to conduct an inspection for the code issues.
Mhm.
And then we'll wait to hear back from you on the access letter. As soon as you got that, you can submit it here to the city. And, it sounds like those were our site plan issues, correct? Then they'll have to apply, the Reynas will have to apply for a conditional use permit to do auto sales, because that's required, but they're aware of that based on their other business too.
Okay,
When you contact UDOT, they'll probably just have you fill out an application or a pre-application meeting. They hold those every Tuesday. So I think you just call over their office and ask to get on, get an appointment with them. And I have a meeting similar to this. They usually do it online, but
And they usually invite us so that we know what
it's going
the
on.
conversation is, so it's not uncommon if you get that pre-application meeting for us to attend as well.
okay.
Okay? So I think we're good. We'll just wait to hear from you. Jake, can you get with him on setting up a time to do an inspection? And once you have that approval from UDOT, then we'll move forward with the auto.
Okay,
Okay? Thanks so much.
thank you.
Have a good day.
Hey, our next discussion is for butters. Mike Bastian was the applicant. Are you Mike?
I'm Mike, yeah,
Mike?
yeah. Greg and Ken are here with me. I can go up here.
On the table with the discussion. About. Well, Mike. Yeah, let you introduce what your,
Questions are,
so your concept plan, whatever you've got.
well, we don't really have a concept plan today. Greg and Ken have been talking to the gentleman who are developing the property to the north of this. And it's our understanding that they're talking to the city about doing a mixed use overlay. And they do approach, Greg and Ken on possibly, being part of that development and incorporating, their ground into it as well. A couple of questions that we have, so three homes. And, they reached out to us to see if we might be interested in maybe doing their property us individually and do that, and maybe do the two projects through the city at the same time, instead of joining it as one. We have some questions as far as that goes. So you guys know there's a lot of their ground is zoned agricultural in the back, and then they do have two businesses up on the commercial property in front. Some questions that we have in discussions is, say they enter into a development agreement with mixed use overlay. Does that mixed use overlay transfer over their entire property, or could it be done just over that agricultural property? Going our RE15, like the neighbors to the north, and then only having the agreement over what would be that property.
So this is the.
Yep. Yep.
Parcel map.
So it'd essentially be, we'd do a large, parcel combination, combine that to one parcel and zone that, or ask for a rezone of RE15. And then ask for an overlay of mixed use like they're doing, our neighbors to the north.
So you just do it would just be one rezone application for mixed use, you don't have.
Oh, you don't have to do two, okay. I wasn't sure if there was like a different overlay per different zone.
The mixed use overlay is, it becomes the code for the development.
Okay.
It's a negotiation between the city and the developer to make a project work for both the city and the developer. And so the rezone application is specific to parcel lines without, as it stands, it you would request the parcels that you wanted rezoned to mixed use. So without including the existing commercial property down here, you'd have to subdivide it because this parcel comes all the way down to the highway to Larson Lake. This parcel comes all the way down to access here. So you'd have to do a subdivision if you were trying to exclude the commercial down here.
Right.
And redefine the legal boundaries of those properties.
Right, which is a pretty easy process to do, right?
Depends, because you're gonna trigger our entire subdivision ordinance. You
Okay.
have to meet those requirements to have a subdivision. We are adopting a new subdivision ordinance.
Okay,
It passed planning commission as their recommendation, so it'll likely go through our city council probably by November at the latest December. So that'll trigger a new review process for your subdivision. So you'd have to meet all of those requirements to do a subdivision. I know we spoke a little bit on the phone
we
about
did
this.
a little bit, yeah.
The largest concern that we would have with subdividing off that north is access. The Berkeley Street is the only stub road that would give any residential access to this space without partnering with a different property.
Right,
So that's just something to consider.
Yeah.
It's to include all of the parcels, then you need to meet the appropriate access requirements for the number of homes. And if it's mixed use and you're looking for a higher density,
sure.
then it's gonna increase the need for a second access.
Now, if it's mixed use and and maybe it's a both question, the city and fire, if it's a multifamily use, there can be more units off of one axis, as I understand it. Is that correct? Or is that a city thing? Like I did one up in Morgan, and in the International Fire Code is like 100 and something units off of one axis, where if it's residential, then it's 20 something units.
We can answer that right quick on the city. Can't we, Brandon? I can't remember what the total is. Or can you have it?
30 for single family and 100 for multifamily. Depending on what you're considering multifamily, townhome to go single family, 1 or 2 family.
Yeah, and if it was fourplexes, things like that, it'd be considered there with a shared attached wall, it's multifamily. So,
That goes down to what the city.
Yeah, what our definition is, we consider townhomes, single family residences, because we don't have, the state doesn't have a great definition for that.
what if you parceled it under one parcel, one tax ID number for all of it? And then there was no individual tax ID, then it would be more of a rental based thing, and then it wouldn't fall under townhome. You know what I mean?
It would be a private,
Private subdivision, private homes, yeah. Okay.
guaranteeing, when, with the mixed use process, again, it's a negotiation
Sure.
with the city.
Sure, absolutely.
It takes months to negotiate and come to, there's gotta be a benefit to the city and residents living there for the mixed use to take place, because our density is the density. So some of the things that have come up, with state requirements is there a moderate income housing element to your project that helps families? But typically those are with ownership issues, right? Trying to get families into homes where they can have ownership. Those are some things that the city's interested in. We're
Sure.
interested in making sure that we meet the state's moderate income housing requirements.
Sure.
So if you decide to go the mixed use route, we set up committees, which we're working on with the North RPs right now.
Cool.
And we start negotiating what the benefit is to the residents that will come into that area, but also the surrounding area. So
Oh,
the
that's good to know.
impact is a detriment to those around them.
Okay,
It's gotta have some piece or element. For example, some of the other mixed uses that approved in Harrisville, by far the largest one is Ben Lomond Golf Course. They brought a commercial element into that with an amphitheater and an area space where people can gather. And giving connectivity between the highway and Harrisville. There's another mixed use over on Washington Boulevard, where a large portion of that area is in wetlands and floodplains. They're donating. In fact, it just went up the last about half of their project will be donated to the city for a public. That will use our park impact fees to install and give more open space to the city. So those are just examples of some of the mixed uses that have negotiated successfully with the city.
Right.
So keep that in mind if you go that route.
That's great. Now, the guys that negotiated on the project for the north of this, like we're looking at their concept plan, are they through the negotiation process?
We're in the middle.
So they're just starting it. With their concept plan, like looking at it, what kinds of things are they bringing that would be, the benefit for to get that mixed use overlay? You know what I mean? Like what kinds of things are being, as the benefit to the city is?
So they have. We've had preliminary discussions about.
Yeah.
That's their concept, the city doesn't have permission to share that. So,
Well, they're sure.
yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
you obviously got somewhere else because we don't have anything to.
Yeah.
The
to-
reason, like, says too, that some, we're looking to build out to not just pay for lots.
Uh-huh,
That's why. Yes,
sure,
we just want to know what that negotiation is that you just said, so that we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah, because our best bet honestly is, marrying up these two, or at least coordinating these two developments is for the access and for something that's gonna flow.
Yeah.
What needs to be good for the city.
Can I just ask a question? I think there's a part that's missing. And excuse me if I'm late to the party, but what's gonna happen with the commercial piece that's down there? Because in my opinion, that piece is just as important as the piece that's being divided off for access. So what's the?
So right now, that's a great question. That's kind of why we want to come in, guys, because those are two really successful businesses, right? They're successful operating businesses. As it's been explained to me, is those current businesses in, like, talking with the last gentleman that was up here, when that goes up for a new use, those businesses would not be allowed to be in that zone, in that commercial zone anymore. So then you have businesses that are successful and operate and create revenue, a good revenue every year. They would have to know that they have an expiration date. So by doing this over the entire property, the way it was explained to me is, was it a 10-year sunset clause or something to that effect?
that was just a term that we threw out, that
Okay.
a solid date that has to be identified, because if you were to include the southern
Right.
space in the mixed use zone, that is not an approved use. There are specific commercial uses that are allowed in mixed use because people typically don't want to work, live next to a gas station.
And
They
that's
don't,
where I was going.
yes,
Start construction.
things like that. So that's why the mixed use options for commercial were offering that way. And so a timeframe would be set if those areas are included and incorporated into the project.
Sure.
Because the city couldn't just allow something that's against our code.
Yeah.
And you
For sure.
think about it, the higher density residential, you've seen it everywhere, right? They want close amenities, little soda shops, little retail, boutique, type, a gym, things that they can travel to within walking distance or a short drive to get there. Those are the retail businesses or the commercial businesses that really thrive in the mixed use.
And there's some concern that we have, like right now, their accesses work because their accesses are grandfathered. But I mean, this is a lot of Washington right here, which is UDOT, which I would almost, these are both UDOT. I didn't know. Yeah, okay. So there's question on what kind of a shared access agreement is going to be required with UDOT with all of these parcels, because they try and condense them all into one distance intersection. So then if you lose, say you hypothetically lose access because you go into a new use, this commercial becomes a lot less valuable or a lot less desirable. And then you have it all over to here, which if the traffic's not there, can we get people to make the turn? And then if you have, say, 10 acres here, And 51%, I know that's a number, but that's kind of what has been triggered. That's over 5 acres of commercial
Yes, and it's.
Yeah.
Mixed use.
under the commercial. And so I think these guys want to move forward in the butters. Forgive me for speaking for you, but in our conversation, they're open to the idea of moving on something on this. But I don't know if we have an idea of what 5 acres looks like of commercial down here. If these have to go to then enter into an agreement and say, yeah, we want to be part of it. Does that make sense? Am I explaining myself well? So, yeah, sure. Yeah, for sure. And we appreciate you guys having that discussion. And I think that's why we're coming with the idea of, can we do if it's called the subdivision ordinance, like you say, and bring a new boundary line here? Because like you said, it can only go off a boundary line, parcel boundary lines. Yeah, right. So, and then have just this part while we digest what this looks like down the road, because yeah, we just don't know what that looks like yet. You know, what kind of use is it? What's the best use for commercial that would kick off what these are kicking off right now? You know, I mean, can you get an amount of units on there that would justify tearing down something that makes X amount of dollars every year? You know what I mean? Like all those questions, I think take time to digest, where right now we could do something on this back here. So if the subdivision ordinance has been passed, is that talking about access and the amount of units that are allowed and stuff like that, that the new one that's been passed? Is there a way we could get that to just?
It's on.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Is addressing residential
It's all subdivisions.
also,
It dates it to include all subdivisions.
but it's not right, and it's not the process to approve subdivision. But it doesn't necessarily go into like mixed use requirements.
So that would be reading the mixed use requirements as well.
It's gonna be updated.
Okay.
This will be updated by the time you get your application in.
Right.
This is our land use code, and our mixed use is 11.11.
Okay.
That zoning that you're asking is about this commercial one here, MUC. So the commercial requirements of 51%, all the frontage requirements, the depth requirements, and then the proposed commercial uses are set out here for retail, food, beverage, personal services, medical, fitness. All of those are outlined.
Is there, in that use, is the flex space, is that an approved use that would be allowed in that subzone?
Flex space is kind of tradesman shops. People use it. Other people use it for retail spaces. We have a mixed use development that's actually being built up on 750 or set at the corner of 750 and the highway.
Okay.
The lower level is actually commercial on some of the townhomes fronting the highway, and then the upstairs is the residential living space. So you can have a hair salon there. You can have an attorney could work out of that space. And any type of personal service, professional service could work out of there. You can have a physical therapy office there. Things that aren't going to bring in noise, dust, in the environment that is listed there that they're trying to avoid. Noise, environmental, light, odor, dust, hours of operation that are going to have a negative impact against the residents. So flex space is.
It depends on the use.
It depends on the use, yeah. Because if you got a tradesman shop in there that's welding.
Yeah, that'd be like.
That's.
Sure.
That's not gonna be an approved use.
Good to know.
And then if you go up, the MUR is, I guess, what Glade and them connect.
Yes. So MUR is the residential subzone.
Okay.
That parcel that they have is eligible for because it was residential, it's residentially zoned.
Okay. So all residential zones are eligible for.
Only the areas in the city that are identified on our needs.
Oh, okay, okay, so there's like.
So we can use that on our website.
That's all. Thank you.
On ours, future land use map.
I thought, I would do, that's something like.
Well, the mixed use map used to be on our, all modifications on our website. So these, yeah, it does a great job outlining mixed use. Essentially, spaces that front our
Arterial.
major
streets.
are to be eligible for mixed use.
Cool.
So
Okay.
these areas here that are future commercial, and then you can see the space has been identified.
Absolutely. Okay.
It's mixed use, right?
Correct, so yes, correct.
Mixed
It's
use.
eligible.
Not code zoning, this is our future land use.
Yeah.
Some future. We have another map in the general plan.
Yeah, and that's this one probably that I've got right. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So one last question, I think, and if you guys. So the subdivision ordinance that we have to apply for in order to subdivide or combine those parcels into one. Would you bring in a complete, what you're going to do with that subdivision, or is it first needs to be subdivided and then you bring in what you're going to propose?
That you'd have to go through the subdivision process.
It would be well, the subdivision process does not require that provide the density.
Yeah,
But it would be nice as a staff to know what it is that we're proposing.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you go through that reasonable process and after the reasonable process, we will start the subdivision process.
So I would have, if I understand right, I would have to do the subdivision process first in order to get the lines to then rezone to those lines, is that correct?
Yes.
So when I do the subdivision, is it, sorry, I just don't know if I.
Sorry, just for my, Danny Brandon, if you guys, were these, they're not in a subdivision. Right?
Yeah, they're just parcels.
You mean, can they come in and do a boundary line adjustment?
That's what I've been in those places, that's what I was asking.
And then,
Well, let's.
That's how I would, that's how in my head I'm thinking, but I don't see, that's what I'm trying to understand.
The challenge that we're having is shouldn't say challenge, the changes that have occurred are based on legislature and subdivision ordinances and requirements. It's my understanding that you're going to have to rezone the property and a lot line adjustment or a boundary line adjustment no longer is a way to take care of that. So you do a rezone on the property based on, but let's see.
It says no land that's located wholly or in part in Harrisville may be subdivided. Plat be filed and court county requires of fiscal lots to be sold unless a subdivision is made. In accordance with the board.
right, I'm just
Is
wondering.
that what you were saying? So the subdivision of land,
Yeah, cause
so what you were saying is redefine the boundaries, but you're creating a new lot by breaking it off. I'm following what you're saying, Matt, because you're saying if line adjustment, if say the boundary line was down here, we could do a boundary line adjustment to bring it up here, but this is one parcel.
yeah, that's a good.
So you're subdividing.
You're subdividing.
You're right. So
That only works if you're not creating. Yeah.
So we don't control if they want to go in and change this boundary line. Well, we do, that one's commercial, so that would be an issue because it can't.
Yeah, we
trigger a
can't do
change,
that, yeah.
Trigger new lots, that's what the subdivision, so is.
So would we essentially bring in a plat, have our surveyor drop a plat of, can you go back to that parcel? Yes, thank you. Would we just bring in essentially a plat that shows this? the legal description of that. And this, not anything to do with utilities, things like that. It would just be, we want to combine this and these are the remaining parcels.
Can't do it without utilities because the subdivision ordinance to subdivide the land requires all of that to be addressed.
Yeah, this is a little unique, like if you were to come through and do just a mix, if you were gonna do an MUC over that whole parcel, like if you were including the commercial and the whole thing, there wouldn't be the need to subdivide those lines yet. Right?
Right, it would be
Because it would-
subdivided.
You put that MUC zone over the entire thing.
Yeah.
But if you wanna come in and cut those commercial lots off and just do like an MUR on top, then you're gonna have to subdivide.
Right, you just can't allow you can't allow the separation of a parcel without going through the subdivision process.
Okay,
And-
so we have to show that it is serviceable by utilities, basically. We don't have to bring in a whole set of utility drawings.
You do, that's what I'm saying, the subdivision. So, yeah, well, to get approval for it, right? Because you're not just presenting it, you want us to create a subdivision, it would be the Butters subdivision, right? And that has to be recorded at the county. So in order to be recorded at the county,
But if we bring in the entire, that's like putting, I'm trying to decide to put the cart before the horse because we haven't even got the rezone. So I've been before a lot of councils before. You don't even have a rezone and you're here asking for us for this kind of density. We can't approve that kind of subdivision. And you spent $60,000 to $100,000 with your engineering and they're like, you don't even have a rezone yet. Well, I can't get the rezone until I do the subdivision. Well, like I'm not gonna give you that without
so
having.
the state's starting to catch
No,
up. The state changed that. That's the authority to approve subdivisions. That's what we had to come up into compliance with.
Okay.
So it doesn't go to the city council.
For council.
No.
For sure.
It's all staff, it's all in purpose. Well, what about rezone? So say we bring in a proposal and we negotiate through it. And you guys say, yeah, this works, you can get the sewer here, I can see that. And then we approve it through the subdivision, but we have to have an mixed use zoning for that kind of density to work. Then we have to go back before the council and ask for that.
So I think we're kind of getting lost in the
Yeah.
process here. And talking about what ifs a little bit. So to answer your question about the subdivision, you can make the subdivision lot as big as you want.
Sure.
So to show utility connection to this massive lot,
Uh-huh.
you have to show where it's available, right? You
Right.
gotta show where the engineering is. You don't have to break out and subdivide what the mixed use utility plan is gonna be.
That's a good-
You have to show the utility
Okay.
access for this large 5-acre parcel. that
Okay,
you're subdividing.
sorry, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Because
That's a good-
I'm picturing like, I'm gonna have all these
No.
profiles and all, you know what I mean, show great. Thank you.
Utilities is that you didn't wanna have to show that, you're just subdividing, you can't not show
That makes sense.
for a subdivision. But whether it's a 5-acre parcel, because the A1 zone, which is its current zoning, with exception to this parcel, is CP2.
To there, yes.
So the others still remain A1 as long as it's 1-acre lot or larger. So you could have it subdivided to a 5-acre parcel, you could show your utilities, and then we rezone that 5-acre parcel into the mixed use,
Right.
right? That's kind of what you guys were
Right,
asking.
yes, thank you, yes.
The disadvantage to that is what you want to do with the mixed use parcel and other access points available.
Right,
But that would go. Now, I will say this with the caveat, I try to make sure that anyone considering mixed use understands this process.
sure,
You can get to the end of the negotiation process and the council can tell you no.
Sure.
Because it's a legislative.
100%.
Okay.
100%.
So we could go through the subdivision, we could rezone the 5-acre, or not rezone, we could create the 5-acre lot. We could go through a negotiation process, and if the council doesn't like the proposal, it's a legislative decision for them to say.
Sure,
Okay.
okay,
The nice thing about it is when we do our committee, we typically have a council member.
Sure. Sure,
That'll be involved in all the negotiations and updating the council.
And that's why we try to. Something that's in the community.
right, Yeah,
more housing for moderate income, whether it's, what you're bringing in, you know, that's up to you, Chris, right? We're the ones that apply the code, but we don't, so the ideas.
and could that be done, talking about moderate housing, say we do decide to build it and keep it all, you know, and rent it. Can that be done through having a portion of it for a certain type of rent, you know what I mean? Where people can afford that?
I've seen that happen. I think that. I don't know if that technically meets the definition of moderate income homes. It wants to be a product that can be purchased by people that's affordable,
Okay.
not a rent. Layton City recently had a big project that was supposed to be supposed to be condos. They sold 3 or 4 of them and then turned the rest of them into rentals, and it sent the community into a tailspin. They came in under the assumption that they were gonna be condos for people, and then they changed it to rentals.
There's still people that rent though.
Yeah, there are.
I see.
There's,
We don't disagree, but the state is telling cities that we.
we need to meet moderate. A lot of cities to meet moderate.
Yeah.
So as long as we can follow the definition of what the state has set out so far,
Sure.
it might change in February.
Sure. Always does.
So, if your definition of moderate, meet that, and it's my understanding that that is a unit that can be sold to individuals who meet the criteria.
We'll read up on that and do it as it changes or whatever. So I already said last question once, but as it is with this proposal from the neighbors and wanting them to join that, without doing this subdivision to their property, even if they only do this much, it would have to be applied over all of their property then.
I can buy that.
So,
Clarify.
oh yes, absolutely. So right now, they're proposing to do a mixed use, oops, I didn't know the touchscreen. So they're proposing to do approximately to here with a combined
Right,
use
to get the second
Right,
access here.
to get the second access.
Uh-huh.
But if they do that without doing a subdivision, the only way they would be able to do that is they would have to apply the MU over everything right now as it stands.
Correct.
And then this would fall under putting an expiration date to these businesses and knowing what's gonna happen. So if they didn't want to have that, we would, even if we did a joint thing,
Has to be
have to
subdivided.
be subdivided. Okay.
So we was asking for just a road from that property up there to Blvd, talking about to Larson Lane.
Yep.
Does that trigger any kind of businesses that we have now?
If
We just want access road up that one side, bottom of that property, we're talking about putting houses or whatever.
let's put a public road.
Yeah.
It would trigger, so a public road is dedicated to the city through a subdivision process.
So, understood. Would that trigger any kind of requirements or code stuff for the properties that are to the west of that, businesses that we have now?
So you currently use this access, correct?
Yeah, and I
Does that be our-
move it over, right?
It's geo.
When they,
That's the city road, that's your question. Is the city gonna,
It's not so much even to city road, but it's, what does that do to SPS and Butters construction? When that road is asked for, as far as bringing up to codes or anything like that, or can we just cut that piece out and deal with that piece of road?
so that would be part of the. So I'm understanding your question, and it would have to meet our distance requirement from the intersection to have a road. The Wall Avenue intersection, and that's what Matt's trying to measure here. And what you would
This one over
do
here.
is after,
Oh, okay.
so the question you're asking is, could SPS and Butters still access that? Well, you would have to create a new access on the new road. You're following me? Off of that. Right? So we would make it an intersection instead of an access point there. It's 390.
Matt, close that one and use this measure over there.
We're just trying to figure out a way to get in and out of there. And plus, if there's some way to help that school.
You and us both.
Yeah. Whatever,
We would agree on that.
it's premium 39.
So if I'm understanding you, you'd say, so we turn this into an intersection, because that'd be and maybe it'd need to shift a little bit to give you whatever access you need. And then your accesses for your businesses would come off that new road rather than accessing off Larson Lane. Is that what your question is?
On the new road along that east boundary, and then off that road, they have access into there.
Into your businesses.
It's roughly 300.
And I don't know.
Even if they don't, it's 350, 370.
What's the order, what's the measurement for or intersections? What is the distance that it has to be?
It's either 2 or 3. It's over the.
Okay.
Create that way. So,
And to be able to go through both.
so what?
It's tough, it'd be really tough because you start that left-hand turn.
But essentially,
It's right here.
So we
back.
Now, I'm trying to remember from their intersection.
It was 100.
But I thought it was, yeah.
It was less than an hour.
Lot of residential.
Yeah, a residential lot is what I want to see.
We probably, we'd wanna.
Yeah.
Which would just benefit them because it would give them property.
Well, and it-
business.
and it benefits-
Make the crowds,
And this is what we've talked about in the past too. It benefits the city because then it gives us some access to that retention pond, not on that other homeowner's property.
And then they would have to curve up, it's like, meet up with the one that's coming down from 1100.
Would that trigger closing all of these?
Larson's a city street.
Right, but would UDOT say, well, if you're putting this in,
You don't, if it's a temporary access and you give yourself new access and put. Yes. You don't runs by patients. And we're just trying to part them because we, in the past, we've lost businesses, we're trying to figure out what their rules are so that when we have this meeting.
yes,
We can give you guys as much information, so we don't find ourselves halfway down the process and have you down.
yeah, we've had those I've been in those meetings, so I know what you're talking about.
So. You have an agreement, and because your business has been there before the city incorporated, even maybe 1962 or before.
Essentially,
So if your access was grandfathered into its current use, that's what the situation is with the charter school. They have that for themselves. It's available, they're supposed to get to that new access. So that's what the agreement was, that it could trigger that, but you need to have that conversation with you.
It is a little difficult because of this curve too.
Oh, yeah.
And not, we're supposed to come in at 90, no less than 80 on your road, so which points it. There's lane going, right, but it's, I don't know, we can work with your engineer and see what we can figure out.
yeah, because essentially you create that. There's nothing big enough to put on that
I
opposite
know.
side. And it's just a,
Yeah, so you end up with it here, but the problem, you can get straight in at that angle. You have some
Yeah.
slight distances.
Yeah. No, and again, like I said, we've already kind of addressed another access getting in off that bushel lane. Being a gate in, opening a gate in,
Yeah.
so we can not have to go through that. Right. Again,
So that question, I think, is if we have to subdivide that. Do we include that strip right there in the first subdivide?
The hard part is that.
So that we have that little piece of road right there, and that piece without causing problems.
You know, the only part I see with it is that is zoned commercial right now. So say we bring a road in and we conclude this as part of it, we can't downgrade this zone to whatever we go RE15. So that will then trigger your entire piece to be under the CP, right? So then you have an expiration date now to your businesses without knowing, is this density that I can get over this enough to work, to make it worth it to do this? I would think that you go here and just don't worry about the road.
So
Tell me
we need a utility, we do utility easement through that.
just do a utility change.
When you do the right, you do that residential side to the north, maybe just put on a stub road for future.
For sure, 100% for future growth, yeah. Okay. I just, until we know what kind of density you can get here to make it worth it to get rid of businesses that really make money, because those are rare right now. No brick and mortar businesses that make money are rare. I would say protect yourself and do it this way. Anyway, this helps, so thank you so much for giving a little bit of clarity to how it would work and what would need to be done to do it.
So the subdivision process and the mixed use process both trigger from an application. And the meeting is very much like this. But it sounds like you have a lot to discuss and consider.
Sure.
Because we are in the process of adopting a new subdivision ordinance, you will be subject to meeting that new ordinance. So.
And that new ordinance basically, yeah, follows state code, the changes that the legislature made last year as far as breeding.
That's good to know. Thanks for sharing that too. I didn't know that they changed that.
Well, we're. Next year.
Yeah.
We'll get a couple months left to
Sure.
make sure it's squared away, but
Yeah.
because we've already done the process, you'll be subject to the new ordinance.
Okay. We'll look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.